Well, it's happened again. Another one of Hollywood's young starlets is finding themselves facing hard time in the pokey. And of course, I'm talking about Lindsay Lohan. Now, whether or not she's really facing hard time, I'll leave that discussion up to all the other talking heads out there. But this week, I'm going to focus on attorney's fees and expenses and how to make the most out of those for your tax situation and reduce your tax bill, helping you to keep more of what you earn. Now, you don't have to be a celebrity in order to deduct attorney's fees, and the IRS has spelled out the rules for this clearly under the Internal Revenue Code. So what we know is that if you've paid attorney's fees in connection with making or collecting income that's taxable, you get to deduct those attorney fees. What I mean is that if you need help collecting or earning income that you're going to pay tax on in the future, you are eligible to deduct those attorney fees. You can also deduct attorney fees that are paid in connection with determining or collecting a tax refund. So good news, if you're working with a certified tax coach who is also an attorney, those fees are deductible. And P.S., even if you're working with a certified tax coach who's not an attorney, maybe an enrolled agent or CPA or tax preparer, those fees are also deductible. You don't have to be an attorney in order to deduct those expenses with developing your tax plan. You cannot deduct legal fees paid in connection with a personal injury or wrongful death suit. And the reason why is very simple. Those types of awards are not subject to income tax. So it makes sense, therefore, that you're not going to take a deduction for those types of expenses when you're not paying tax on the income. Now here's where the bad news sets in for Lindsay. You also cannot deduct attorney fees paid in connection with a criminal action. So because she's finding herself facing a criminal action related, I think the original charge was for a DUI, she's not eligible to deduct those attorney fees. You also cannot deduct attorney fees paid in connection with a civil lawsuit. So if you find yourself in the unlucky situation of being sued, those types of attorney fees are not deductible, but we'll talk some strategies in a few minutes. Now, once you've determined whether you can or you cannot deduct attorney's fees, there's a good news, bad news situation. The good news is, of course, that you can deduct them. The bad news is how you deduct those expenses. Now, in general, these deductions are taken on Schedule A of your 1040 tax return as a miscellaneous itemized deduction. So for those of you who may not be itemizing, of course, you might be out of luck there. But for those of you who are itemizing, the miscellaneous itemized deductions are subject to what we in the tax industry call a 2% haircut. And it means that the first 2% of your adjusted gross income for that deduction gets thrown out. It works like this. Here's an example. Let's say that your adjusted gross income is $100,000 and you have $3,000 worth of eligible attorney expenses. $2,000 would get thrown out and your deduction becomes $1,000. So you can see where your attorney's fees, even though they're deductible, they may not be benefiting you 100%. So let's talk some strategies and how to make sure that you are taking every deduction that you're legally allowed. Like most situations, business owners and investors have all the advantage here. Why? Because if you're paying attorney fees and they can be connected to your business or real estate investment, for example, you're eligible to deduct those expenses as a business expense and you get a 100% write-off for those right off the top. So if you earn $100,000 in a business, for example, and you have $3,000 worth of attorney fees, you get to deduct $3,000. So your best defense is going to be to find a business connection for those attorney fees. For example, let's say that you're paying to defend yourself against a suit that arises out of your business. Those fees are a deductible business expense. Help for Lindsay Lohan. If part of her attorney fees are paid to her lawyer to help negotiate her sentences or negotiate with the studios to rearrange her schedule because of her stay in jail or her rehab, we can allocate part of those attorney expenses right over to her business, the business of acting, that is. So you can see how the proper strategy can take a deduction from a place where it's either not deductible or limited over to a place where you can get some sort of tax benefit from it. So remember, if you ever find yourself in that situation, make sure you're working with a good proactive advisor who can properly advise you and help you structure things right from the beginning. It can really make a difference between not getting a tax benefit for something and it making all the difference in the world. So until next time, thank you for joining me, and remember that certified tax coaches are trained and here to help you keep more of what you earn. It's not really how much you earn that counts, but how much you keep that's important. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.